Hi, welcome to Kitchen Chats. I am your host, Aimee Kandrac, and today I am here with my friend Candice Smith, who is the founder of Caregiven, and we are going to start talking about and diving into the use of technology when any kind of major life event happens. So Candice, thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity to share what little I know.
Oh, you know a lot, and you're glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks.
So before we get started, I am wondering if you have a moment in your life that you would consider a kitchen moment that you're willing to share with everyone. And as a reminder, those kitchen moments are those times when something happens and you have to kind of pause, call your friends and loved ones, and you gather in the kitchen and you figure out the next steps.
Yeah. The one that is coming to mind, and there's so many because there's just so many. Backstory: my dad got sick. I was living overseas at the time, and I remember flying home to spend some time with him and arriving on the day after his first chemo session. And he was so sick, he couldn't get out of bed. This is a man that got out of bed every day in your life. So my mom was at work. She had a part-time job. And so I arrive from France and I walk in the door and there's a sticky note on it that says, "Your dad is sick. He's probably in bed. Don't worry." Of course, my dad is dying at the time. So I walk into this dark house knowing that my hero is sick. And I went into the door into the kitchen and I had no idea what to do. I had none. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I am sorry that I'm interrupting.
No.
Did you know your dad was sick before you got home?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But no,
I'm sorry that I
knew
interrupted.
Cancer.
Okay.
He had cancer and he was dying, but that's very different than he just had a whole bunch of chemo injected into him and he's in bed sick, right?
Yes. Yes.
There's that, and there's that idea that, especially when you don't live near your loved one, that the last time you saw them is the image that you have in your brain. Or even in my case, my dad, I have this image of him from when I was probably 8 years old. And so then you walk into this house and he's so sick he can't get out of bed, which is different than the cancer. And so it all hit me. And I'm in this kitchen and it's a gloomy Oregon day. And I had no idea how to help. None whatsoever. And I remember texting a friend whose dad had gone through, or a parent had gone through, and I'm like, what can I do just around the house? And she's like, do the dishes, make sure he's getting enough water. And it was that whole, like, I had no idea. And so it's those simple things that keep you busy and keep you sane and that make you feel like you are doing something, that if I hadn't had friends who I could just reach out to and say, what would you do? So that's the kitchen chat moment that came into my brain. And like, I remember my friend was like, he needs to drink like 20 gallons of water to get this chemo going. And so I went out and I bought a Brita, and my dad didn't drink water. He hated water. He was of that generation. And so it's all of those little things that if you don't know what you don't know. Right. And I hadn't been on the Wi-Fi password in years, so I couldn't Google anything. And so I reached out to a friend. Yep.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. That is so much. But so thanks for sharing that. The thing that really struck me when you shared that, though, was how you phrased, what are the things that you can do to keep yourself busy? Right? And that was doing the dishes, getting the Brita, like all the little things that totally needed to be done. Incredibly helpful for your dad, also really helpful for your mom, too. But how important they really were for you in the moment to keep your mind occupied from what was, and maybe not even keeping your mind occupied, but
Oh.
just to kind of like feel like you're doing something.
Something. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so one of the things is I know that my love language is little acts. Don't tell me you love me, show me you love me, doing those little things. And so I think it may differ for people whose love language may be cooking or gifts. In my case, it was I needed to be busy. I needed to show love. And then I needed to feel as if I was contributing in some way, shape, or form. As you know, when you're going through these life activities, whether it's somebody got hurt on the job or your kid is failing and you're powerless because you want to let them make their choices, how do you stay positive and moving forward while not overstepping and yet feeding yourself, your soul, your love language as part of all of that? So
yeah, and not always positive, but at least supportive, right? Like
yes,
some
exactly.
of these situations just don't provide the opportunity to be positive, unfortunately, but supportive and not a drain.
Right. Exactly. And I think that that's one thing that I've learned over, from the moment dad got sick and he passed away, 6 years ago. And now is you have to remember yourself in this journey and lean into that, because that's what makes you feel good through the process, instead of saying, oh, I need to all of a sudden learn how to be a hospice nurse and how to change somebody while they're sleeping in a bed. It's like, no, not necessarily. Identify what you're good at first and then lean into that, because then you're going to have a better experience, and your loved one or your friend is going to have a better experience. And then you're not, again, showing up differently than you had in previous years.
So I'm going to pick up on something else that you said in there that I hope will get us started on the conversation that I really want to dive into. And that is, you said, I didn't even know the Wi-Fi password, so I couldn't even start to Google anything. Yeah. I mean, I, for the most part, feel pretty lucky that if I go to someone's house, it's probably not going to be for super long, and or maybe I have enough cell phone service that it will be okay.
Yeah.
But I can think of a lot of instances when I really need that Wi-Fi password. I really would rather be on my computer searching everything and not just my phone. Where the hell do I find the Wi-Fi password?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really big. And like, okay, so we want to talk about the technologies that can be used. And I'm making up a number here, but like 70% of them are going to require, or if not 99% of them are going to require the Wi-Fi password.
Yeah. And if you don't have the Wi-Fi password and you're relying on cell phone coverage, my parents at the time lived in a really small town in rural Oregon that, maybe had just got its first fiber optic line. And so I'm like relying on cell phone coverage. And there's nothing worse than technology that doesn't work when you need it to, right? When you're desperate to know, should I go to the pharmacy? Where is the pharmacy in some cases? And yes, you could pick out the phone book. And in my parents' case, they probably got one in 1989 when they moved in the house and then recycled the rest. Or that's not our human nature anymore. We go to that technology and it's just like so slow watching that little wheel search for, which just adds to the overwhelm, right?
So much yes, like technology, and you and I think are pretty lucky in that we're in the technology field. We're pretty decent at it most of the time, but when it doesn't work, it's actually worse.
It's worse. Yeah.
It's way worse. So finding that Wi-Fi password could be really helpful. And I like to try to give tips to people ahead of time, like just write your Wi-Fi password on a Post-it note on the bottom of your modem, so that if anybody needs to come in, or if you're like, I know that it's this, and this, and you're like, but you forgot the capital letter, or,
right, exactly.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Just have it as a backup.
Yeah, I think though, so that's some of that preemptive stuff, especially if you're going to visit somebody or be with somebody that is not your neighborhood or your hometown. If I would have asked my mom where the Wi-Fi password was, she would have felt like a failure because she wouldn't have known, and she should know. And your father handles all those things, and so then you get into that whole drama
Oh, yeah.
as well. And it's not all the time that you can anticipate, right? It's not like you just got the call from your best friend 6 hours away that she's going through something, and you're like, I'll be there, I don't care, I'll get there. 2 hours away, whatever, I'll just come and sit with you. You may not have the wherewithal to be like, okay, and when I get there, make sure I have your Wi-Fi password and the key to the house, and
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah. So just the preemptive, like, if you think of it now, next time you go to your mom and dad's house, just write the Wi-Fi password down on a Post-it note and stick it underneath.
Or you could even just put it in your phone.
Well, you could just put it in your phone.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, for someone
Right.
who might happen, like if your brother comes the next time and needs it, or
Yeah,
whomever,
exactly.
or if you're eventually going to have like home health aides who are coming in or anything like that. I actually have a little chalkboard
Yeah.
that has our Wi-Fi password. I'm sure it's not like a good idea, but I do anyway. Like the IT department in my house has not
Yeah,
complained yet.
exactly.
You've brought up all of the like, okay, so I need to logistically go do all of these things when I need Wi-Fi. But I think there's a lot of other technology that is expected when any kind of crisis happens.
Yep.
And I think, I mean, for me, it's usually my phone is the number one thing that I'm going to need. And starting a text group, which is in general now probably the first thing people are thinking of, like,
Right.
because one thing that I have learned in my business is the first thing that happens is people need to communicate.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
So who are you communicating with? How are you communicating with everyone? And a text group tends to be quick and easy, but naming that text group,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that it's not like, oh, who did I forget to add on that last group? And you can
Exactly.
just make it simple, like, mom's hospital group, mom's hospital buddies, or something
Yep.
like that, so that and you can add people to those text groups, you can
Or they
remove
can
them.
add people, and yeah.
Yes. And so it's all right there, quick and easy.
I think too, though, that finding the quick and easy are some of the first things that go out of our brain when there's a crisis, right? We get into that fight mode, not the flight. You're not going to avoid it. You're not freezing. You're like, I'm going to rise to the occasion. And we go in, and we're not necessarily thinking of the tools and the tips and the hacks that can make things easier for us. But you're right, setting up a text group, setting up reminders,
Oh
right?
my
I'm
gosh,
horrible. I
huge.
have to set reminders to call my mom. Otherwise, it's just another thing on the to-do list. And so reminders are a great thing to physically stop somebody from their day-to-day to even just turn it off, right? So that was something I did with my dad, is in order for him to drink the water that he needed to drink, I got his iPad going off with all these annoying sounds. So he'd get so angry, he'd have to try to figure out how to turn the alarms off. And then it was like, okay, I might as well just drink the water, kind of thing. But when you think about technology, it's meant to make our lives easier, but we're not like sort of applying that when we're in these moments. Back to the text message, if friends are going to be adding friends, or your mom's tennis partner is going to be at it, making sure that whoever is at it and it like self-identifies. I hate being on text threads and there's just a phone number. So it's like, okay, well, who are you? Hi, this is Sue. I play bridge with your mom on Wednesdays. Anything that I can do to help? Okay, well, that's great. And then if you're all of a sudden the ringleader, how do you start organizing these people? Sue will do anything, but don't ask her on Wednesdays because that's bridge day.
Right.
That type of, and then all of a sudden you're into the herding cats, which we do with our kids and with our jobs. So then thinking through those technologies, what do we use on our phones to help us manage carpool? Oh, it's my day. But I like, my daughter, we carpool. And I even still have, the day that Jane's mom is taking Allison because Allison needs to be ready. Well, and it's all of that. So it gets overwhelming.
It gets
I
really
think you and
overwhelming.
we've talked about, setting up a separate calendar. So it's, you can see it on an app with your other existing things, but it's also a separate calendar. Sometimes these events are draining emotionally and you don't want to be reminded while you're at work, let's say, that today is the day that, hospice is coming in. I don't necessarily want to see that during the day. I want to be reminded of it at night when I call, that type of thing.
Right. And obviously what friends do is set up for all of this, but not everybody wants to do that. And so on the calendar part though, I live by my Google Calendar. I mean, if it is not on the Google Calendar, it will not happen.
Yep.
But I can go in and add, I mean, there's still colors left that I could pick from.
Let's hope so. She's got the full spectrum, people.
I don't think you understand. Some people have looked at it when I try to warn them of this, because I can see, husband, each kid's their own color, work's a different color, soccer carpool's a different color, choir carpool used to be a different color, all the things. And then when you add in, what do you need to do for grandma? What do you need to do for this? But I like, because then you can toggle it on and off. Yep. You can look at and you can also just say, okay, I'm just ignoring pink. Like I'm just I just don't even have to look at that one right now.
Exactly. But then again, there's that visual reminder on your calendar. There's something pink today.
There is something pink today.
Yeah.
Right. And so then when the reminder goes off on my phone that at 7:00 I need to call mom.
Right.
I can look back at that pink thing and say, oh, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. And reminders on phones, I think, can be so helpful. I like to set reminders like just for like, oh, it's my friend's birthday, or in a sad instance, like a year from an event. Yes. I try to put that down as a reminder. That's one of my favorite things, is to remind, like, a year later.
To send, I'm thinking of you at this time. You don't necessarily have to be implicit, but just a little nod to let somebody know that you haven't forgotten.
I've not forgotten. But you can do those in the things where it's like, okay, dad's supposed to be taking, 18 gallons of water in by this point. Let me just send him a quick text and see how that's going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that is important to remember is we don't have to overly technify our lives, meaning, my mom will never wear an Apple Watch. She won't ever track her water. To suggest that she should, she would say yes. And then you'd go out and you'd spend the thousands of dollars and get it all set up. And then she would feel bad every day that she didn't put it on. Or on the flip side, she is wearing it and she'll lie and be like, well, no, I walked more than that today. If you're like, mom, you only got 3,000 steps in, your goal is 25,000. And then you're in this judgy situation. So, technology is a tool to help us live our lives. It's not to replace actually caring.
Yes.
Or having decent conversations. And I think that's really important. Don't slap a watch on grandma and expect grandchild of the year because, I'm helping her avoid urinary tract infections. No.
And now she's not going to fall because she's got an Apple Watch on.
That's right. Yes.
But then she can't find the charger. Oh, the charger. One fantastic idea that was not mine originally, but I'm totally stealing, is that like each family member has their own color of that, like, I don't know, swishy tape or something.
Oh, yeah.
so that you can put it on all of the chargers. Because in my house, the issue is that like, that's my charger, that's my cord, where's my cord?
Yes,
But for grandma,
that's true.
labeling it to say, this one is for your watch, this one is for your iPad, this one is for your phone, this one is for your computer, and then you have a whole bag right there.
Yes, mine, I have the little brick thing. It's labeled
Uh-huh.
phone, and I have the cord labeled phone, and I have it in a plastic bag that I take when I travel, which is very different from the ones that are labeled phone at home that I use, because it is complicated. And then you ask somebody, like, I don't know, my husband, he's like, oh, well, that's a lightning cable C. And I'm like, no, it's a cord. Don't complicate it. It
Don't
takes power from
complicate.
the wall and it provides power to my device. Yeah,
And I'm already stressed. Please do not make this worse for me. And this is just when we're
exactly.
traveling. This is not
Exactly.
when we're like of a generation that is not as tech savvy, or when we are in just a stressful situation because you've got something going on in your life.
Exactly. Exactly. And again, that's where we go back to technology is your worst nightmare when it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So relying on what is known and trusted and you're good at, instead of trying to adopt something on the fly,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially in these life events, there's usually a catalyst. There's usually sort of a high point, and then there's the sort of settling in, and then you're on riding the waves. Well, get through the crisis. Maybe even start writing down what's working, what's not working, and then when you're on that downward slide, say, okay, we really need to find a better medication management or reminder system because labeling the pill packs
Ah.
for dad to take at 9:45 is great, except when he goes to the doctor and they change it. Now you
Mm-hmm.
have to go back through and relabel everything. So how do you then, is there a digital solution? Is there a hybrid solution that allows you to have the knowledge that somebody's doing something at the right time, but gives them the ease?
Well, because like, what if their fingers aren't working to open all of those things, and so they just leave all of the medicines open, and they're not going to use the pill pack. I've
Exactly.
seen that happen too. So,
Exactly. And then on the flip side, people are like, oh, there's these really cool medication dispensers and they're awesome until, the power blips out for 2 minutes. And then you've got to reset it because it doesn't have a backup generator, or, your mom doesn't know how to set it up. And she feels, again, stupid. And then she's mad at you because you made her feel stupid because you bought this technology. And then, so,
mhm.
God, this is therapy.
Well, I think it's super real. I think these are things that in times when you're at that top crisis point, you want to be doing something,
Mhm.
right? So you walk into the kitchen and you're like, I'm gonna wash all the dishes. I'm gonna get the Brita filter. I'm gonna go find all the technology that is going to magically help everything,
Yes.
but maybe not. But it
Yep.
makes you feel, and half of the time, not even half, but a lot of the time it does help. And a lot of the time you do need it for your peace of mind, and it can be helpful for the person going through it. Um, but it can also just get so overwhelming.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to keep in mind that these instances are often, the worst experience up to date that somebody's lived through, the
Mm-hmm.
scariest, the
Mm-hmm.
most humbling experience. And no matter how much easier we make it by simplifying using technology or having a group of friends step in, it doesn't take away the fact that it's still the worst experience that they've gone through to date. And so keeping that in mind, that balance of, yes, we're working a good process, we've got a lot of people involved, and it still sucks.
And
So
it
we're
still
still going to
sucks.
be present and empathetic and loving,
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh, but mom, it could be so much worse because you could be like counting pills
Right.
instead of. So again, there's that. Technology can make things easier, which I think then frees up our time to be better friends, better daughters, better sisters, better humans. and lean into more of the, the experience itself rather than the tasks and things like that. So,
But sometimes we do appreciate the help with those tasks,
oh.
right? And
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to you and I were recently at a conference together, and the keynote speaker was talking about all of the technology she set up in her parents' bedroom at night and things that I haven't yet had to experience. So it was kind of mind blowing to me to think about all of the technology she was
Yep.
using, right? So her
Yep.
parents, she was still in the same house with them, but needed to have monitors. She needed to know when they were getting out of bed at night. Like they might have just
Right.
been going to the bathroom, or they might have been going and thinking they needed to cook. So she had like those doormat things that you put
Yep.
underneath the doormat that she put at the end of their bed so that she could get notified if they stepped out of bed at night.
Yeah, she was talking too about the backups to the backups that,
The back, right.
she had like a baby monitor thinking that she would hear movement. And in
Mm-hmm.
reality, that would fail or some other situation. And which is a great example where she took some everyday technology and applied it into her home environment to give
Mm-hmm.
her peace of mind that she could sleep a full night, knowing that she had 3 iterations of a barrier or a notification system.
Right.
And I think that that is really important, is again remembering who this benefits and why,
Mm-hmm.
and what the outcomes were.
Mm-hmm.
And it enabled her support her family and honor her parents' decision to age in place as long as they could, to
Right.
not go into a facility, which this whole industry and this whole idea is transforming. The first like residential care homes sort of really came into popularity in the 80s. And so that was our parents putting their grandparents in these senior, and now the environment is like, no, I'm not going to be parked into a home and ignored like I did my parents. You're not going to do
Mm-hmm.
that to me. So I'm going to age in place. So how do you then use some really cool technologies to help with that?
Right. Well, and going back to some of the like older technologies, like just a basic baby monitor, which actually my kids are old enough. I have no idea what baby monitor technology is
Yes,
anymore, but
it's
like,
all video and
right. But you might want that now. So can
yeah,
you have the video monitor, or does that make your parent or whomever feel a little like, I don't really want someone with a video monitor watching me sleep at night.
exactly.
But if you have just a walkie-talkie or something, or a baby monitor, so that if I need something at night, we can talk to each other.
Even if we're in the a different room, there are really cool technologies that are coming out though. So there are light fixtures that go in a ceiling that are motion sensing. So
Mm.
again, they're not intrusive. They're not
Uh-huh.
going to be videoing your grandparents having, but they
Oh God,
will
that's not where I
record.
was going.
They will record if somebody gets up 3 times a night, and then we'll alert people. And why is that important, right? The average reader who is, or listener, may not know that urinary tract infections are a huge problem for seniors. And so
Huge problem. Huge.
getting up in the middle of the night, not only can you maybe get ahead of a urinary tract infection, people wandering around at night. How many times have I walked into a wall because I'm half asleep and I just am
Uh-huh.
trying to get to the bathroom, and falls are awful. And so some really cool technologies exist that really help with that. They
Mm-hmm.
are on the more expensive side, but I think in the next 5 years or so, there's going to be incentives to age in place. So renovations that are age in place friendly, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know, Aimee, we're in the industry. A fall costs Medicare $30,000, and the
Right.
button. My mom has a button. Help! I've fallen and I can't get up. That's $100 a year, or something like that. So how do you, and even just wearing the
If
button makes
if you
people
wear
more
it.
aware. Well, if you wear it and if you keep it charged, yes.
But yes, but it makes people more aware. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It
Which,
does make them feel old, right? Which is the
of course,
downside. So,
it
um,
does.
but you know,
But they
there's
can do that and keep it hidden under their clothes, maybe more than the Apple Watch that they're not going to remember to put on either.
exactly.
So yeah. And I think trying to have some conversations, if you can, not always options, but having some conversations to say, I can't sleep at night because I am so concerned because I love you so much.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we can do? And not saying that it's like all about me, right? So
Right.
trying to have the conversation to say, I'm concerned about you at night. Are
Yeah.
there any things that we can do to make this safer for you?
Yeah. Absolutely. And then it's an act of love, right? It's not
Mhm.
a act of intrusion or I'm doubting your ability to take care of yourself type things.
Because
So
let's be clear, no one wants to see grandma and grandpa having sex at night, right? Like that is not the goal. That is
no,
not where we
no,
are going with
no,
this.
no, no. Uh, eh, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on from that topic.
Yes. Sorry, people, for the visual imagery.
Oh, but not only like there's a lot of technology that can help not only in aging, but even just in like a lot of crises that happen in life,
Mhm.
right? There's tons of apps out there, and I have yet to see a one size fits all. I have yet to see one that is perfect for anything,
Oh,
right?
yeah. It's not possible because we're
It's
dealing with people with such unique individual experiences. It's like this
mhm,
idea that, you know, pregnancy apps, there's best in class pregnancy apps, and it's going to help everybody through their pregnancy. But every pregnancy is different. What
mhm,
that woman, where she works and her home environment, does she live in a place that has healthy drinking water? All of that affects the pregnancy journey.
mhm, mhm.
And you have to keep that in mind. And it's the same with all of these apps that are going to help you through any life event. There's apps that
Exactly.
help people with breakups, right? Like your boyfriend dumped you day one,
Right.
burn his pictures day three, send a text message to his mom, whatever those things are. There is no one size fits all. So,
Right. And so understanding like, and this is horrible, right? I'm a tech exec. I'm going to say it anyway. Like, not every technology is going to work for you. You don't have to keep using it.
no, you don't.
So, and that's actually so typical, right? Like that is, I see that all the time. People start using our stuff and then for long lists of reasons, they stop.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, I think a lot of them can be helpful if you can really get into them, but getting into them can be really hard and overwhelming also. And I want people to just remember, like, just do whatever works.
Yeah, exactly. And that this technology is meant to solve a pain point
Mm-hmm.
and get you through. And again, people are coming to all these products. Nobody's out there Googling, caregiving apps or
No.
mental health apps unless there's a reason. And
Uh-huh.
it's usually a dramatic, traumatic reason. And so you try, you use, you figure out what you like, what you don't like, and if it continues to work, that's great. But you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to stick with it, and you don't have to feel guilty breaking up with the tech either.
No,
There's
no, you
no
don't.
like sunk cost fallacy, like, oh, I spent 5 minutes setting up and personalizing this. Now I need to keep using it, or I bought it for 99 cents in the app store and I'm going to get my 99 cents worth. It's like, or you could stop adding additional friction into your
Mm-hmm.
life, or you could reach out to customer support. A lot of the technologies in this caregiving, even if it's child caregiving, people go into this segment with pure intentions. By and large, there are some companies out there that they're just after the dollar. You, you guys can email me and I'll tell you those names. But when you think through the list of the type of people that's really creating a service, they had a very personal experience and they want to help. I know that people will ask me questions like, oh, you're an expert on this, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm not. And I say, I may or may not be able to help you. If I can't, I can introduce you to somebody, or I can tell you about a different product. And I think by and large, most people are like that in this space.
Yes.
But we are also dealing with a reticence to ask for help. So there's one thing picking up the phone and calling your girlfriends and saying, I've got a glass of wine. I've got 4 bottles here. I need you to come over and just be with me as we think through this, or talk me through this situation. It's another thing asking a stranger to help you.
It is really another thing to ask a stranger to help you, but I agree with you so much. Everyone who I know specifically in the tech caring healthcare space is doing this from personal reasons, as you said, and we all want to help. Everyone on my customer service team really does want to help you. And we don't need to just help you with your password reset that you're having difficulty with. We do this a lot for a lot of people, and we've seen so many situations that we would love to say, this is something that we've seen work for other people. Maybe this would be good and a lot of these places can also refer you to other resources.
Right, exactly.
And that's something that, you can't get that from buying a monitor off of the shelf, or a video camera off the shelf. But if you go to their website, they might have other resources listed. They probably know if this one isn't working for you, something else that might work for you.
Yeah. And let's just qualify that work for you is very different than solve every problem, right?
Right.
Again, we're not trying to, there's no possible way.
No.
So having the expectation that this is going to help with this, I'm using this technology to help solve this. And if it does other things, that's great. And start expanding out. But what friends do, it's like, okay, how do we organize? How do we communicate efficiently? That's outside of a text message. That's not a Slack. What is the safe environment that it may just initially be a communication tool, and then it's a coordination tool, and you get wider from there.
Right. Well, that was ours was, we know that the first thing is people always want to communicate. That's one of the biggest things. And they always say, oh, I'm not going to need help with anything else.
No.
And then a couple days, hours, months, whatever go past, and you're like, oh shoot, we probably could use some help. And so that's why we have the organization there at the same time. And then the integrated, Amazon stuff, because DoorDash, Amazon delivery, subscribe and save, those things can be really, really helpful. They can be really helpful for, your parents who maybe, even if they live in the same town, you might not have time to go get them groceries every time that they need them.
Right.
So use Instacart and have those things delivered to them.
Yep.
I know.
Absolutely.
I did that for my grandmother one time, and I felt really guilty because I think she was sad that I wasn't going to be delivering groceries for her, but I just couldn't do it. And she made really good friends with the Instacart person.
Of course she did.
Of course she did. And you're like, oh, now, and she was like, now tell me how that thing works, right? Because some people actually want to, especially the introduction to new technology can be fun and exciting. So we've talked about how overwhelming it can be, but sometimes it can be fun and exciting. So we shouldn't always feel like it's
Oh yeah,
this huge
absolutely.
burden.
Absolutely. Yeah, even Amazon or Alexa, right? You know, the weather or little things like that. I remember 2 years ago, the Google had a big Super Bowl ad campaign, and the little old man like, show me pictures of Loretta, right?
Uh-huh.
And that is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There's technologies out there too. Now we are making the assumption we're caring for somebody that, we're rising to the occasion. There are people that need care that don't have family, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just read some article about this old gentleman who died without a will, and he had $11 million in the bank, and he didn't have any siblings, nobody. And they had to do a genealogy thread to disperse this $11 million.
Oh,
And which
wow.
is a testament to the insurance company, again, that they have a fiduciary responsibility to do that. But, you know, using technology in a case where somebody is really isolated and alone, to have pictures,
Mm-hmm.
how do you get them set up on that? Well, I think things are getting easier and easier, but Zoom and all of that puts people in the same room
Mm-hmm.
together, even when they can't be, or it's not safe for them to be. So there,
Yeah.
there are a lot of things out there, and you're right. This talk was supposed to be like, yeah, and there's this companion software that is great, and then there's that companion, all of this great technology out there. And we took the slant that don't layer in too much, at least in the beginning. Really work through slowly and use technology to help you live your life and be a better caregiver. I think that's really important. And the other thing too is don't force your technology on other people, right?
Right.
There's
Yep.
an interesting company in I think it's called Carevoya. It's a young guy, and he basically talks to seniors, helps seniors use the technology that their kids
Mm-hmm.
have bought them, and say, this is why you're going to use it. This is how you can use it. You can have all of your old photos, like,
Mm-hmm.
here, and go through them. So things like that. So,
Well, oh, and there's also this really cool app. Shoot, I can't remember what it's called, but it's something where you can be someone's eyes for them. And this one, I just think it's so cool. My mom did this really recently and was telling me about her experience where I feel like the person had something broken, maybe on their air conditioner, and they used their smartphone, and she was able to look and see whatever they needed to see, talk to them about it, and then they were able to call and get a repair person to come.
that's, isn't that amazing?
So
I
there's
mean,
so much cool stuff out there.
yeah,
And I'm really lucky because one, my mom is still,
yeah.
pretty healthy and young. And yes, I did say my mom is young. For when she listens, hopefully she'll smile at that. Um, but she's a person for whom she would want more technology,
Yeah,
right? Like she wants to know what's the newest, latest, greatest. Let me have all
yeah,
the things. So really thinking about the recipient,
yeah, absolutely.
because some
And
people do want it. And some people are like, I'm not going to take your technology no matter what.
that's right. That's right. Or that's really great for you. But like
Mm-hmm.
in my house, my husband is very into cutting edge technology. And I get really angry that I can't turn a freaking light on in the house without my phone. No, I have to be able to walk into a room and turn a light switch, And so it again, isn't it nice that the lights come on and there's mood lighting at 6 o'clock and all of that crap? No, sometimes I just want to be able to turn on a light switch. So having the flexibility, I don't know if that's an age thing. All of those gadgets are cool until you can't watch TV without 9 remotes, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's okay. We can't turn on the lights in our garage right now because something broke in the app that would turn them on. And yeah, so I understand. Not that yeah. Anyway, Candice, this has been so fun. But I'd like to leave our listeners with two final thoughts and questions that I have for you.
Okay.
So, my first one for you is, what is your favorite thing to do for someone when they have had or are experiencing a crisis? What's your like, this is what I do?
Oh, it depends on the crisis, right? And it depends on the person. But the big thing is just show up, right? Like, don't worry. Oftentimes, you can just show up and do dishes or organize a meal or, take their children for 15 minutes and give them peace of mind. I think that is really the most important thing is nobody is going to say, sure, come over. I'm going to put
Yeah.
out cheese and crackers while my daughter's in ICU. No. But there's another thing of like just seeing what needs to be done and taking care of it. Taking people's garbage cans to the curb and back
Mm-hmm.
is something that nobody thinks of doing, but yet garbage night, that's another to do. And oh my gosh, I got to get home from this doctor's appointment or whatever to make sure that the garbage cans get put out. So, and it's as simple as even like the grocery shopping. I'm at the grocery store. What can I pick up for you? Well, I don't need anything. I don't want you to burden anything. And it's like, okay, I'm going to buy 20 bags of Oreos and I'm going to drop them off. Or you could say, I need laundry detergent and I need soap or whatever. So I think that's really the important thing is we don't want to be pushy individuals. And so we're waiting for people to ask. And yet, as we started, thought has left the building. Your child is hurt. Your parent is hurt. In my case, your dad is dying. Maybe not today. In 6 months, in 8 months, your dad is dying. No, I'm not going to worry about whether the dog got fed in that moment in time. So little things, again, that's my love language, but they really, really do matter. So
that's really nice. I'll know what to do. Then the last question is, what is the best thing that anyone has ever done for you?
The best thing that anyone has ever done for me, like in general, or when I was
when you were going through a crisis or in any one of these major life events.
So the best thing that anyone has done for me, particularly when my dad was sick, was I have a very dear cousin who had lost her father. So she had known. And she would send pictures and thoughts and anecdotes just randomly, like, oh, hey, I was making breakfast for my kids today. And I remembered your dad used to make Bigfoot pancakes. Pancakes in the shape of Bigfoot. And I decided to do that for my kids because I was thinking of you and your dad. And it was that little, like, they saw the situation. When my dad passed away, everybody's like, we want to send a plant. I'm like, don't give me something else to die. Watch die. What can we do? And I said, the greatest thing you can do is think of my dad and then do something, would honor his legacy. Have a beer, tell a story, watch a football game and yell at the TV using bad words, but anything. And I think that is the greatest gift. And even like a few weeks ago, my cousin sent me a picture of my dad and her mom. They were the in-laws to the siblings, and I'd never seen it. And it was like, oh my gosh, those are the things that for me really, really matter.
Oh, that's really nice. Candice, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for doing these conversations. They're so important.
Thanks.